My husband slept with his ex while I struggled to get pregnant. He had fertility issues. I divorced him. For some background, my husband is 30 years old, and I am 27. We have been married for 2 years and have been trying to have a child for about 10 months. Unfortunately, nothing worked out, and the strain started to take a toll on our marriage. I wanted a baby badly, and he did too. He had always talked about starting a family, even when we were dating. Having a child was something we both wanted, so we didn't waste time after getting married and began trying to conceive right away. I felt disappointed with every negative pregnancy test, but I kept my composure. He, however, reacted differently. Each time we found out I wasn't pregnant, he'd get upset and then ignore me for days, needing space. His attitude made me feel guilty, like it was all my fault we weren't having a baby. About 6 months ago, I suggested that we get tested to find out if there was a problem. He refused, saying we didn't need to spend money on tests and that we just had to keep trying. So, we kept going with no answers. Then, 3 weeks ago, after another negative test, we argued. I brought up getting tested again, and he snapped at me, saying he already knew who had the problem but didn't want to hurt my feelings. That didn't make sense to me because neither of us had been tested. That argument hurt, especially since he constantly blamed me when it could have been him. He insisted it wasn't him and gave me an ultimatum: either I do something to fix this, or we go our separate ways. He said he wanted a baby, and if I couldn't give him that, there was no reason to stay married. That broke me. I loved him and would have stayed with him, baby or not. But he only cared about having a child and treated me like a baby-making machine, not as his wife. Feeling crushed, I stopped talking to him until he apologized. He never did. 3 days later, he left for a business trip without saying goodbye, which hurt even more. After he left, I tried to comfort myself by focusing on the fact he at least updated our shared iCloud calendar with his trip details, a habit of ours when he traveled for work. I kept busy for the next few days, knowing he'd be gone for about 10 days. On the third day, while scrolling through Instagram, I unexpectedly saw a post from his ex-girlfriend. She was at the pool, wearing a bikini, and the location looked familiar. On a whim, I looked up the hotel where my husband was staying. The scene matched what I saw on Google Maps just days before. I wasn't sure if it was the exact same place, so I called the hotel front desk to ask if she was staying there. They connected me to her room, and I heard her voice asking who I was. I didn't say anything and hung up quickly. I tried not to think about it, but I knew then my husband was cheating on me with his ex. Luckily, I had followed her on social media, and they were still on good terms. Otherwise, I might never have found out. Then I realized he probably added the trip details on the calendar out of habit, not to hide anything. But after I saw her post, the calendar entry disappeared. It was too late, I had already taken a screenshot. They had dated for 2 years in college but broke up a few months before graduating. They stayed friends, and she even came to our wedding. I found that odd, but my husband said nothing was going on between them and it was all in the past. He said they only saw each other in group settings or when she was traveling. I didn't think much of their friendship before. After realizing they were definitely together, I knew I had to end my marriage. I called a friend to help me find a divorce lawyer quickly. He arranged everything for me overnight. Since he had been through a divorce himself, I explained the situation to the lawyer and asked them to prepare the papers. I also decided to get tested for fertility because I had a feeling the problem wasn't me but my husband making excuses. Within a week, I filed for divorce citing infidelity. My test results came back clear, no fertility issues. Everything I suspected was true. I was waiting for my husband's return so I could confront him with the papers and test results. I stayed busy so I wouldn't have time to cry or feel sorry for myself. My goal was to teach him a lesson he wouldn't forget. On day 11, he came back and tried to act normal. He apologized for the argument before his trip and said he had been looking into in vitro fertilization. I didn't respond to that. Instead, I asked where he had been staying on his trip. He tried to avoid the question and said he couldn't remember the hotel name, but I could tell he was struggling. I named the place, and he shrugged it off. Then I told him about the Instagram post from his ex at that same hotel. He ignored me at first, but I kept pressing and finally asked if he had seen her. He denied it at first but stayed silent while I stared at him for several minutes. Eventually, he admitted he had met his ex but hadn't told me because he didn't want me to feel insecure. When I asked for details, he tried to change the subject but gave in after a while. He confessed he slept with her out of frustration. He asked her to meet him at the hotel a day before his trip ended, and she agreed. He said he wanted to confirm if he was the one with fertility problems. He remembered they broke up in college after she got pregnant by accident and he thought it was his baby. But she told him she cheated on him back then with someone else, so the baby might not have been his. He was disappointed and wanted to come home but she convinced him to stay. They ended up sleeping together because he felt weak and hopeless. He calmly explained all this as if it was reasonable. He said he went to her instead of getting tested because he feared the tests more. Planning a secret trip with his ex to ask about a long-ago pregnancy seemed easier to him than facing medical tests. After learning the pregnancy she ended had probably not been his, he finally got tested. The results showed he was the one with fertility problems, not me. He also realized she had used him. She stayed at the hotel only 5 of the 10 days and left after that, but promised to keep in touch. They spent a night together, but the next day, she blocked him everywhere. He saw it was a one-time thing and not the emotional fix he hoped for. He apologized and said he only did it because he was frustrated and wanted a family. He wanted to give the marriage one last chance, saying it was his decision. That made me laugh. I didn't stop until I handed him the divorce papers and the fertility test results. After I handed him the divorce papers, he started telling me it was all unnecessary and that we could still fix things. I didn't say a word. My bags were already packed, and I had recorded our whole conversation on my phone, so I was ready. Once he finished explaining everything that happened on his trip, I decided I didn't want to waste any more time arguing. I walked out right then. He dropped to his knees and begged me to forgive him when he saw my packed bags, but nothing could change what he did. I ignored him, grabbed my stuff, got in my car, and drove away, leaving him crying on the front lawn. I drove straight to a friend's place. I had already asked if I could stay there until the divorce was settled, and she said yes. She is a friend from college, and my husband doesn't know where she lives, so he won't be able to find me. It has been almost 3 days since I left. He has texted me every day, but I have not opened a single message. I figured he'd give up eventually, but today, I got a call from my in-laws instead. My mother-in-law was furious, demanding I return her son's calls or text him back right away. I panicked and asked what was going on. She said my husband had called her, sobbing uncontrollably, telling her he felt lost without me. He said he didn't know what to do, that he could never have the life or family he wanted, and that it broke him. He was so upset that my mother-in-law was scared he might hurt himself. She wanted me to call him back immediately. Honestly, I think that was a little cruel. When I heard all that, I felt upset because it sounded like he was trying to make me feel guilty for protecting myself. I had done what any woman in my shoes would have done. It felt like he was playing the victim just because he was infertile. So I told his mother he could do whatever he wanted because I was no longer his wife, he had cheated on me. She was shocked and said I was being cruel. I told her I didn't care and that her son deserved it, considering how upset I was. Then I hung up before she could waste more of my time and tried not to think about it. About an hour ago, my husband texted me again. This time I opened it. He said he was feeling better and that I didn't have to respond if I didn't want to. But he said my reaction to his breakdown was heartless and that now he felt like I never loved him. He wanted me to understand that he was suffering too and that it wasn't only me going through hard times. He said he was infertile and would never have kids, and I should have been kinder. So, am I the asshole for not talking to my husband after his mother called me about his breakdown, especially after he cheated? Update 1, it has been 3 days since my original post. I want to thank everyone who responded. Your support has meant a lot. I understand now that I should have left him as soon as he started blaming me for not getting pregnant. But I'm not the kind of person to give up on relationships easily unless I know for sure they aren't worth it, which he proved by cheating. I didn't get back to him because there was no point. He and his mother tried calling me to guilt trip and manipulate me into coming back, but I wasn't going to fall for that. I was hurting just as much as he was, maybe even more, since I was the one who got cheated on and lost my marriage in a day. For him to act like he was the victim is ridiculous. He isn't. He is pretending so he can manipulate me and make me look like the bad guy for not caring after he slept with a woman he claimed was nothing to him, not just once but multiple times. So excuse me if I'm not quick to forgive and forget like nothing happened. He has kept texting me, but I have muted him and haven't opened his messages since the last time he accused me of being cruel. He has a few weeks to respond to the divorce petition, but I'm sure he'll try to cancel it and persuade me to stay. He doesn't know I'm done. I could have forgiven his infertility, that was not his fault. I might have forgiven him for acting badly. But I cannot forgive cheating. Update 2, today, I had to go back home because I realized I had left a really expensive bracelet there that my dad gave me. It was a big mistake to forget it while packing, but I was just not myself at the time. I wanted to return when my husband wasn't home. I didn't want to sneak in like a burglar, so I waited until after work and went, not caring if he was there or not. When I arrived, he seemed happy to see me and tried to hug me. But I wasn't smiling, and I didn't look at him. I pushed him away and told him I was just there to get some of my jewelry and then leave. He seemed disappointed and said I was being heartless. He asked me to forgive him and move on, saying it was only one mistake. He even tried saying he came to me himself to confess, so I should consider forgiving him because he did not lie. I fought the urge to slap him and ignored his rambling. He said he was no longer in contact with his ex and that she had blocked him, not the other way around. He said he would still talk to her if I hadn't found out. After I grabbed my bracelet, I was ready to leave, but he blocked the doorway. He is much taller than me, and I was scared, but he told me I had to give him a chance to explain. I had no choice but to listen to him repeat the same stories about how he only slept with his ex out of frustration and didn't even like her because she used him. He said his ex made him realize how much he loved me and that he wasn't ready to give up on us. He said he just needed one more chance and that he could prove he was a good husband. I didn't want to give him that chance, but I said I'd think about it so I could leave. That seemed to cheer him up, and he let me go. He tried to hug me again, but I pushed him away and left. I drove as fast as I could to put distance between us. I got home about 30 minutes ago and still can't believe he thinks he deserves a second chance. I'm sure he will fight the divorce, but I don't care. I know he cheated, and I have the proof. It is frustrating that he still doesn't realize what he did was wrong. No one deserves a second chance after cheating. He blamed me and made me feel like crap for not being able to have kids when the real problem was him. This divorce should have happened a long time ago. Update 3, my husband has 1 week left to respond to the petition. I think he still hopes I will change my mind, even though I have ignored all his calls and texts for a long time. Today I told him he can't change my mind and that he'd better find a lawyer and stop wasting his time and mine. He called to ask if I was serious, and I told him yes. There is no way I will take him back after what he did. He tried to talk me out of it, but I was too tired to argue and hung up. If he doesn't take this seriously, that is on him. I warned him, and now the ball is in his court. My lawyer and I are already working on the settlement. Update 4, he is not fighting the divorce. We are moving straight to negotiations. I want a fair share of everything, and with the evidence I have, it should be easy. He hasn't contacted me since our last call, but his mother has. She didn't call me. She called my parents to complain about how I raised a daughter who has no respect for her husband. She thought I should forgive him for one mistake and give him another chance. But she didn't know my parents don't support cheating or bad behavior. Instead of telling my parents off, she got scolded herself and was told that her son was the one at fault. She should be blaming him, not me, because I am just doing what's right. I'm glad my family is on my side. Soon, my friends will know the truth too because I'm not hiding this. Everyone should know what he did to me. Infertility aside, that is none of my concern anymore. I hadn't cried or let myself feel for a while, but now I feel like I can relax and finally move on. Soon, I will be divorced, and he will be gone.